This is American Hope Talk Radio with your host, W.L. Laney. His guests are real people who have overcome real obstacles and are willing to share their experiences with you, bringing hope for the challenges standing in the way of your greater success. Listen while we deal with life as it is today and reveal how hope for the future can bring you more success than you have ever imagined. Now let's get on with today's show.
You are listening to a special edition of American Hope Talk Radio. I'm your host, W.L. Laney. The title of today's show is How One Man Turned a Job Loss and a Business Failure into a Lucrative Business in Less than 45 Days. My guest is Phil Meyers. Phil spent many years as a highly paid business consultant. Through a set of circumstances too many of us are familiar with in today's economy of high unemployment, lost home equity, selling 401ks, trying to save the house, Phil found himself with his back against the wall in danger of losing his house. And then, welcome to the show, Phil.
Thank you, WL. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Tell me about the bottom and how you got there.
Well, it all started about 6 years ago when I was a fairly highly paid, six-figure. I had a job that was paying me six figures. I was the director of strategic alliances for a company, and just as the economy started to tank, that job was essentially just disappeared. On my drive home after I was laid off, my first thought was, free at last, praise God Almighty, I'm free at last. And I immediately took the chance to go out and open my own marketing business, which is something that I'd wanted to do for quite a while. So that's where it all started. In the first year, we did okay. But then in the second year, as the economy went further and further into the tank, we started having to do things like tap my 401k. We wiped out over all of our savings, just trying to make sure we kept the house. Eventually, we wound up literally with our backs against the wall. I was 30 days away from missing a mortgage payment when I came to you. So that's where it all started, and that's how I got there.
All right, so we first met. You had actually come to me through a referral to do some writing for us, some website development, and those things for my company, Diamond Rose Shears, which is a scissors sharpening and sales organization. We set people up in business and provide them with all the equipment, everything they need to go out and make up to $100,000 the first year. So what did you learn about the beauty industry when you first came in and started doing some writing for us?
Well, the first thing, and it was amazing to me, is I had absolutely no idea what a pair of scissors cost a stylist. I mean, I figured they're 45, 50, 60 bucks, just like you would pay at Walmart for a good pair of office shears. Imagine my surprise when I found out that you can pay anywhere from $200 to thousands of dollars for a shear. And as we got to know each other and as I got to know your business, I really saw the quality of the products that you produce and the incredible quality of the sharpening service and the way the system works. So I, as we say, have said for a while now, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago when I was just doing the writing and putting web content together and things like that for Diamond Rose Shears, that I had already been convinced that this was a great opportunity for people.
So what was going on behind the scenes while you were doing all this great work for us?
You were becoming a larger and larger part of my business, regretfully. My other clients were disappearing. And when we finished up the projects that we were working on together, suddenly I had no clients out there at all. I'm a firm believer in you do whatever it takes to make sure you survive. And about 2.5 years ago, the only job I could find was working the Christmas rush at Tommy Hilfiger in the outlet malls. And I took that job, and I did it.
Well, anybody who has heard my story knows that I believe in doing whatever it takes, and I've done some crazy things as well to make it work. And there's a lot of people that are doing that today. They're working 1, 2, 3 part-time jobs, just trying to hang on. I saw a statistic the other day that said that anybody who is 50 years old or more is spending an average of 44 weeks trying to find a new job. And the problem with that is, so you find a new job, that doesn't give you any kind of security because the job market has not turned around. We're having a recovery. Wall Street seems to be doing fine, but the job market it limps along. They keep giving us unemployment is down 0.5 percentage point, and they're trying to make good news out of that. And that may sound good as a sound bite, but for the guy that's sitting there with no income, it really doesn't do anything for them.
Nope, not at all. And that's what I had taken a job with a consulting company a couple months before that almost killed me. I mean, I was on the road 100% of the time. I never knew where I was going to be. It was just the worst job I'd ever had in my life. And so I wound up, literally, I was 30 days away from missing a mortgage payment, which would have put me right in the middle of the foreclosure problem out there when I came back and talked to you that one magnificent day.
Well, at least it was momentous. And I'm not sure exactly what it was. I think you were dressed up in a suit, and I was asking, what are you doing in a suit? And you were talking about a job interview or something. And then I said, hey, Phil, why don't you? And go ahead and pick up the story there.
Okay. WL offered me an option here of picking up a Diamond Rose Superior Sharpening System as a distributor. And I said, well, I don't have any down payment, to explain to him where I was and what the financial situation was. And WL went and talked to Colleen, and the two of them came back and talked to me. And the next thing I knew, I'm signing papers, and WL started training me on how to sharpen shears. Now, the odd thing was, before I started this, I really didn't want to be a shear sharpener. It was one of those things that, I was a high-paid manufacturing systems consultant. It was beneath me, I thought, to go out and sharpen scissors. But as we went through the training program and I started really seeing how much fun this is to return something to factory new condition, my attitude started to change. So WL was able to set me up in a local area right around here. I made some mistakes about how far I was willing to drive to get business, but they had me set up with about 350 salons right within about 15 miles of my house. And I was able to go out at the end of just a few days training and start making money almost immediately.
Okay, that was my next question. How long did it take to start making money, Phil?
Second day out is when I finally got over the call reluctance and walked in and actually did the presentation the way we teach people how to do it. And the next thing you know, I was sharpening shears. The second full month, the first full month I was in the business, I sold 20 shears that month. That's a record that I think only WL has broken. So.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about something that you just said. You were reluctant to make the call. So as I try to envision this, you're driving up in front of a hair salon, and you, the former consulting marketer, closer of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consulting contracts, you're afraid to go in and talk to some sweet girl that's standing behind a beauty chair cutting somebody's hair?
Well, it sounds ridiculous now, and it actually feels pretty ridiculous now as well. But the first couple of salons I pulled up in front of, it was like, oh, good. They have a no soliciting sign on the door. I can't go in here. I'll have to go to someplace else. So I drive down the street and I come up to another one. There's no soliciting sign. So then I'm sitting there in the car, breathing deeply and just trying to get over the basic fear. And it's a ridiculous fear because you walk in the door, the service that I provide is second to none. The products that I carry are beyond anything that they've ever had in their hands before. And once I got past that, and it really only took a half a dozen calls for me to get beyond that point, then it just became just get out of the car, go into the salon. If everybody says no, that's fine. Go to the next salon. And guess what? There's a salon next door or across the street. So they're everywhere, and it became fairly easy. I got my presentation down to big smile, open my sales kit of shears, and all I do is say to the gal behind the counter, guess what I do for a living? And they all start coming up to look at shears. And the next thing you know, I'm sharpening.
And that has to do with the confidence. I recall back in the years when I was operating a business brokerage, merger and acquisition consulting firm, and one of the things that I always advised buyers, because these were guys who had been top executives in major corporations and had decided they wanted to go into business for themselves, so they were looking for a business to buy. I had business owners who wanted to sell their businesses, and basically I was just putting them together. But one of the key pieces of advice that I gave the buyer was always, you need to understand that you are starting back at ground zero. You cannot come into the office in the morning, prop your feet up on the desk, and wait for something good to happen. You've got to get in, you've got to get back to the basics and do the things that it takes to make a business successful. And you're telling me that that's what you learned when you first started. Even though you had lots of experience, you still had to get over those basic fears of, hey, I've got to go in here, I've got to make a presentation, I've got to talk to some strange person that I've never met before.
Yep, and that was it was still uncomfortable after a couple of weeks doing it, but I just kept getting out of the car and doing it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, and you're now leaving behind you people you've talked to before, so that when you go back or when you're stopping in again just to check on things, you're already making friends. You're building that relationship, and that's really key in any sales position, is you really are selling yourself first and then your product and your service.
You're listening to American Hope Talk Radio. I'm your host, W.L. Laney. We're talking today with Phil Meyers, who lost a job, had a business failure, started a new business, and was successful in less than 45 days. When we get back, Phil's going to tell us about one of his really good days. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is American Hope Talk Radio. We're talking today with Phil Meyers, who turned a job loss and a business failure into an opportunity to start his own business in a completely different field than he'd ever been in before, and how he became successful with it. Phil, thanks for being on the show today. Tell me about your best day.
Certainly, I have a couple of them that are really big in mind, but the first one is I walked into a Floyd's. It's a barbershop chain out here, and I just opened up my shear case the same way I do everywhere. Girl behind the counter's not looking up. She just says, "Hi, what's your name?" I said, "Phil." She said, "Have you been here before?" I said, "Not to this Floyd's." And then she looked up and saw my shear case, and she said, "Oh, did you need a haircut?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do want a haircut. But here are the rules. You have to use one of my shears to cut my hair, and I'm going to sell shears to any stylist who cuts my hair." So they called over a couple stylists, and one of them says, "Okay, yeah, I'll use your shears, but I'm not buying anything today." I said, "That's fine, just use the shears." So I got my hair cut. She used a pair of shears that I recommended. We went through 2 or 3 of them. She wound up buying the pair she was using. I wound up selling 3 more shears in that salon to other stylists behind chairs. I sold a pair to a gal sitting in the chair getting her hair colored, who was a stylist in another salon, and I sharpened 12 pair of shears, all in that one afternoon. So I paid $20 for a haircut, and I made in commissions over $1,400 and $420 in sharpening. So I had a pretty good day, about $1,857 for that day, and it was all based on me needing a haircut and walking into a salon I hadn't been in before.
Oh, okay, that sounds really great. That's $1,857. Can you do that every day?
No, but it happens often enough that it's like when you play golf. There's always one ball that you hit that keeps you coming back no matter what your score is at the end of the day, right? I've had a half a dozen days that were just insane like that. Walked into a salon to sharpen a pair of shears, wind up sharpening 13. Now, that kind of a day is just amazing. So what I do is I look at it averaged over time. What's really happening? I mean, I've had days where I didn't get any business, and it didn't bother me. I just go out the next day and get business.
What do you charge per pair, Phil?
For sharpening, I charge $35. I do sometimes discount if I really like the person and they're giving me lots of shears to sharpen.
Okay, what about your competition? What do they typically charge?
Anywhere from as low as 15 up to, I know of one guy who's trying to charge 40, and, well, first off, he's not worth it, and certainly very few people are paying $40 to get their shears sharpened.
Okay, so on average, you're charging 35, and the typical competition is at what, 25?
25 is probably the average for the rest of the guys I compete with.
So how do you get more money and still have satisfied customers?
Well, it all goes back to when I walked into my first salon with a little bit of confidence, and I said, "Hi, my name's Phil Meyers. I own Front Range Sharpening, and I am the best scissor sharpener in the entire state." Now, that was the week after WL finished training me, and he invented the machine. So you can imagine I was pretty cocky walking in there. I've fixed so many shear problems that other sharpeners have caused that the gals who now use me, they call up for appointments because they don't want anybody else touching.
Okay, so what were the hurdles? I mean, it's nice. We talked about this earlier. Your annualized income when you were out working your business full time was in the $90,000 range. There's lots of people in today's marketplace that would be delighted if they could get a job that even paid them $50,000. And you're talking about a business where you were able to go out and make $90,000 your first year. What are the hurdles that you had to face and overcome?
Well, the biggest one right in the beginning was just wanting to do this and getting out of the car. I think everybody faces that. The first couple times you pull up in front of a salon, you're looking for a reason not to go in. Oh, good, they're closed. I've had a couple like that. But once I got past that and realized, it's what you're providing the stylist is a service they can't get anywhere else, a quality product that the prices are just unbelievable, finance programs that make them affordable for just about any working stylist. It was that initial hurdle I had to get over. The fact that I had no money going out there. When I first started, I was squeezing my wallet to get $20 worth of gas in my car, and that changed within a week. Then I was filling up my tank again because $20 worth of gas isn't a lot of gas anymore.
What about the attitude side of it? How difficult was it to move from top paid business consultant to scissor sharpener?
It's the attitude part, I think, changed for me when I realized that this business is a real business, and you're going to make out of it what you make out of it. So it's not a job, it's a real business. And changing my attitude about not wanting to be viewed as a tradesman, I started walking in the door as a scissors consultant. Big difference in mindset. So I would walk in there with my shear case open. I don't even mention sharpening until after we're talking about shears and I'm showing people scissors, talking about theirs, looking at their scissors, and just describing everything that's going on with them. Because as a scissors consultant, I'd rather stand there and sell 2 or 3 pair of shears in a salon than spend a couple of hours and sharpen 6. It's just more fun selling them. So it's that attitude.
You're listening to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are listening to American Hope Talk Radio. I'm your host, W.L. Laney. When we get back, I'm going to ask Phil the real story. What really happened when you started going into the salons, and how has it changed your life? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to American Hope Talk Radio. My guest today is Phil Meyers, who went from job loss, business failure, to a successful business sharpening and selling shears. So what's happened? What are you doing now?
Well, it turns out I was really pretty good at selling shears. I averaged more than 12 shears a month. I've had at least 3 months where I sold 20 shears. Diamond Rose Shears recruited me to become the general manager, and I've since been helping doing training, just helping run the company, and trying to keep all our distributors happy and our clients happy out in the field. At the same time, I still have front range sharpening going, but I only work by appointment now for the dedicated clients that I've got.
And how many calls are you getting a week?
I'm probably averaging 2 or 3, and I try to do those either late in the afternoon or Saturdays.
Okay, and so somebody calls you to go out and do one shear. What typically happens?
If I go out to do one shear, I usually will wind up with 3 or 4, because as soon as I set up and I start working, they start coming out of the woodwork, and I get questions like, "Oh, could you check mine? I had mine sharpened recently, but they don't feel right. Could you look at them?" This guy, someone will tell him these shears can't be sharpened again, and I can pretty much. There's very few shears that can't be fixed.
Okay, so was losing your job a good thing or a bad thing in retrospect?
In retrospect, hindsight being 2020, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Okay, so we've got a lot of people listening to the show today. What would you tell the people who are out of work and they've been struggling trying to find a job for the last 6 months?
Einstein said it, that if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And if you've been struggling trying to find a job, guess what? That's not going to change anytime soon. And even if you do, you have no security that that job's going to be there a year from now. You're way better off if you reach out, take full responsibility for your financial future, and just start your own business. What WL and Colleen have done for me is just tremendous. I was able to go from just about losing everything to now I'm still in my same house, everything's fine, still married to the same woman, and we just added a dog to our mix of pets at home. So obviously we can afford dog food, and we only eat organic food, so that's expensive too.
All right, so now we've talked a lot about the Diamond Rose shears, sharpening, and sales business. That's a good business, and you and I, of course, we both agree, we're both prejudiced about that. Are there other jobs that people can create on their own where they take a job loss and turn it into an opportunity to go start a new business?
I think that there is. That I just happen to be lucky enough to be working with and know you and Colleen and know and understand the company, that this was a great opportunity for me. But a lot of people out there have a skill set, and if you've got a skill set, you can usually find somebody who's willing to pay you to use that skill set. So that whole idea of start your own business, start your own consulting business. I've got friends who were administrative assistants and now are running their own virtual assistant company and doing very well and having a good time doing it. Take the risk. There's really not that much risk. You can start a business, unless you're going to go out and buy a McDonald's for $1 million for the franchise fees. You can start a business probably for under $1,000 and get going and just go out and do it. But you do have to realize that one big, very important thing, and that is it's a business. It's not a job. You don't have a boss. The guy you look at in the mirror every morning has to be telling you, get dressed, go out, do what you're supposed to do, and then just do it.
Phil, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Thank you for being willing to share the failures and the frustrations and the willingness that you had to do anything, and then to discover that doing anything like, oh, yuck, I'm going to go be a scissor sharpener, really turned out to be a very exciting, very rewarding job. Thank you for being with us on the show. You've been listening to American Hope Talk Radio. I'm your host, W.L. Laney. Remember, with hope, anything is possible.
You have been listening to American Hope Talk Radio with W.L. Laney. Questions and comments can be emailed to wl@wllaney.com. Go to www.wllaney.com for more programs like the one you heard today.